Manager for Attached Cable America, and this is a brief presentation about our change from ECO to the new XS cable. So why are we making the change from ECO to XS? Well, some time ago we were getting feedback that there was too much memory in the cable. We did a lot of research, we did a lot of design changes. We made improvements to the product, and we've continued over the years to improve the product. We experimented with a number of constructions and raw material changes, and we got the product to the point where it's very good. It lays flat. The latest iteration of the ECO, the 24 gauge copper conductors, is probably the best ECO we've ever made. So we were very happy with the final result of that. However, we also had some issues in regards to the name. It was brought to our attention that the name ECO can sound kind of cheap, economical. When the product was first released, it was intended to be a very green product. It still is our greenest Category 6 cable. So it had some ecological benefits, and we thought that economically it was also our most viable Category 6 cable. However, now ECO is viewed by some as being cheap. So we want to get away from that. So we're rebranding the ECO to XS to put that in the past. XS will be the new name for our entry-level Category 6 fillers cable moving forward. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the changes that we've made to the product and package in the next few slides. So as I mentioned, Category 6 ECO is going away, replacing it with Category 6 XS. Now, to make things simpler for the contractors, distributors, end users, we've kept the part numbers the same. So the 30237, which is the plenum, the 30238, which is the riser, and the 30309, which is the low smoke zero halogen riser, are the same as the ECO part number. So no change there. Also, the new XS has the same form, fit, and function as the outgoing ECO. So performance-wise, you're going to see the same electricals. OD-wise, it's the same. 0.20 for plenum, 0.21 for riser, and 0.21 for riser low smoke zero halogen. The warranty on the product is the same. So it's still going to be available for the lifetime warranty with all the different connectivity. That's not changing. But what is changing is we now have a smaller package. So as we improved ECO and got it to the latest version, which is now kind of switched over to XS, we're able to make the cable into a smaller coil while still retaining all the benefits that we built into it. So it still pulls nice, it still lays flat when it comes out. And because of that, we're able to go to a smaller package. So this smaller package has got some additional benefits I'll talk about in a slide here that you guys will see. There was also some concern about the 23-24 gauge transition. We sent out some documents to you guys identifying how we see that as really not being that much of an issue. But we did keep a 23 gauge available so that you guys aren't left out in the cold in the event that you have to meet a spec for a project that requires 23 gauge. So we won't advertise it at this time we won't advertise it online or in the catalog, but it's referenced actually in the catalog on the ECO, which will soon be the XS page. In the product highlights, there's a reference to 23 gauge is available. So keep that in your back pocket for when you need it. Now, we did send you a couple documents that you are able to share. One was the original switch from 23 to 24 gauge for the ECO cable, and then a few months after that came the document explaining the release of the new XS cable and how the ECO will be discontinued and XS will be our new introductory Category 6 cable. So you have those letters, those are shareable. You also have the catalog page for the Cat 6 XS. So you can share that. And also you have the sales slick for the Category 6 XS. These are currently being printed, and we should have them in-house in the next week or so. And once we get them in-house, we'll mail them out to you folks so you can use them in your sales calls. Both the sales slick and the catalog page will end up on the website in the near future. But right now, they are just for you guys to distribute. So we talked about the smaller box, and it's significantly smaller. Small enough that we can now go to 30 boxes per pallet, up from 24. So the footprint of the pallet remains the same. The dimensions, if you look at it as a cube, are the same. But instead of having 3 rows of 8, we have 3 rows of 10, which means you get 30 boxes per pallet, which allows us to ship more per truckload, per container. It also requires the warehouses it allows them to have more cable per square foot in their warehouse, and certainly allows the contractors and end users to have more on hand and take up less of a footprint. And one of the byproducts of this too is that generally when distributors order a pallet of cable, instead of ordering 24, they'll now be ordering 30, which benefits us from a sales perspective. So keep that in mind. So we've got a few questions at the end here that we felt were worth answering out there for you folks. So is the change from 23 gauge to 24 gauge a significant change? Well, we don't really see it as that big of a deal. The reduction in copper conductor from 23 to 24 gauge is about 1/1000th of an inch. So it's very, very small change. But in fact, it is a change. So people are wondering, is there a cost reduction when you're going from a large copper to a smaller copper? And it's really insignificant, the copper savings that we're seeing from this. And they're really offset by increased costs in materials and cardboard, the box, freight, labor. Everything else is, as we all know, it's kind of continued to increase. So that little offset in copper really doesn't give us anything. It just kind of helps us keep the cost down as much as possible. And how does performance of the new cable, a 24 gauge, stay the same as a 23 gauge? Well, the reality is there's not much of a difference between a small 23 gauge and a large 24 gauge, and that's kind of where we're living. So electrically, it's very similar. But also, the properties we built into the cable are really a result of advancements that we've made in our manufacturing process, process control, our experience with materials, with design. We've, over the years, really honed our expertise when it comes to what we can get out of a cable. So the equivalent would be today's 4-cylinder engines are turbocharged and supercharged and put out way more horsepower than an 8-cylinder engine from 20 years ago. So newer technology has allowed us to make a higher performing product that can have a smaller footprint. Another question that comes up is, so we're going from a 23 gauge to 24 gauge, and does that really impact our power over Ethernet capabilities? And the answer is not necessarily. It really depends upon other factors as well. So you've got the bundle size to consider, and then we have the temperature rating of the cable, and of course we have the gauge of the conductor. So this is the ampacity chart taken from the back of our premise catalog. I've got it here just to kind of show you something. So in the middle column here in the gray section, where it says temp rating for a 20 to 37 cable bundle. I just want to point out that CommScope, one of our competitors, has a cable that's similar to the XS, and it has a 60C rating. It's a 23 gauge conductor. So if you look at 60C and 23 gauge, end up with a 0.6 ampacity for that cable. And then if you look at the row above it, 24 gauge, and look in the 75C column, you end up with 0.7. So our XS has a 75C rating, so it's a higher temperature rating than the CommScope cable, which actually gives it a higher ampacity rating. So although it's a 24 gauge cable, it can actually carry more power than a 23 gauge. And then when you start looking at the various bundle sizes, because we think that it's unlikely that PoE cables are going to live in bundles of 92 to 192, they're probably going to live in smaller bundles. So with that, the ampacity gets up pretty high, and we don't feel and we feel that because of these variables, that it's not really going to impact the power handling capabilities of the cable. So with that, that concludes this presentation. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.